week on Prepping 2.0.
Simplicity first, and simplicity in rifles, you know. Everybody needs an AR, but everybody isn't going to Afghanistan.
When disaster strikes, will you be prepared? This is Prepping 2.0 with authors and prepping experts Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher. Online at prepping2-0.com. Get ready. Prepping 2.0 coming in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everyone. This is Shelby Gallagher over here, Prepping 2.0. Welcome. I want to say a quick shout out and a quick hello to my co-host on the show and co-host in life, Glenn Tate.
Well, hello, dear. How are you? Good.
We're going to keep everyone kind of waiting with a bated breath.
Yes.
Because we have an awesome guest today. I'm so excited. But quick, real quick, want to give a quick shout out to some of our great sponsors. Right off the bat, want to give a shout out to U.S. Law Shield. Basic insurance for you and your family in case you are ever sued or charges brought against you for defending yourself, for your basic constitutional right. And it can be a firearm, it can be your fist. Funny story, apparently a frying pan too.
They covered a frying pan self-defense incident. So
if something happens and you need legal help, if you have basically bought their insurance, you just call on them and they are immediately at your fingertips.
It was not a concealed frying pan because that would be tough to do.
That would be weird. But anyway, Hoosers, really, this is not expensive, folks. This is like $100 a year, a few extra dollars to add family members. So if you sign up with them right now, go over to prepping2-0.com, click on Friends and Affiliates. You can get 14 months for the price of 12 using the coupon code PREP. Another great sponsor of ours, Jared Savick. He is an awesome realtor in the Kalispell, Montana area. Don't let that fool you, though.
Yeah, he's not limited to Kalispell.
Nope. In town, out of town, way out of town. He knows the Montana market. For you, if you are a prepper or looking to just escape blueness,
yes,
he can help you find a property that will fit your needs of prepping, homesteading, turnkey, something to build. He knows the market really well, and he's a great guy. So check him out, he and his wife, at seizethedaymontana.com. That's seizethedaymt.com, and tell them that Shelby and Glenn sent you. Glenn, tell us about our guest.
Our guest is Michael Bane, and I admit in advance that I'm a fanboy of Michael Bane's. Michael Bane's biography, I had to write it all down. He's
laughing in the background.
He's laughing. He is the host, or he appears on Best Defense TV, which was a TV show, Cowboys, which was a cowboy action TV show, Gun Stories TV show, Shooting Gallery, which is in its 22nd season with Michael. He's also a podcaster. This is how I got to know him, of Downrange Radio, which has been going on for 17 years. A fantastic podcast. Highly recommended. It's not just about guns. There's all kinds of cool stories that go with it. He's the author of the books Trail Safe and White Boys Singing the Blues, which is a rock and roll history, if you will. And he has a vlog, a video blog, on michaelbane.tv. He was an author for Rolling Stone magazine. And this is what really warmed him to my heart. He's the author of the Hank Jr. biography, The Living Proof, Hank Williams Jr. story, which came out in 1983. And we will hear the story. He is the inspiration for the song, the Hank Jr. song, Country Boy Can Survive, based on a conversation he had with Hank Jr., which is a cool story. So, with that, let's go ahead and say hello, Michael Bane. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. And I want to say up front, both of you, I've read your books. You guys are great authors.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
That's actually how I figured out that Michael Bane might actually appear on this show, is that you quoted part of my book, the part about fascism doesn't mean guys with funny little mustaches, to paraphrase, on Facebook. And that's when I said, aha, I have something to talk to him about. And then you were very gracious to come on the show, which is much appreciated. And you're going to be talking about, among other things, guns for preppers. Mm-hmm. So let's just jump into it on that topic. If you're a new gun owner or even a seasoned gun owner and you're a prepper, what are some things preppers, that's obviously our audience, preppers need to know or be thinking about when it comes to firearms?
Oh, gosh. I think the number one thing and something I've thought a lot about over the years. I live 100% off-grid. I live nowhere. I have a neighbor, and our neighborhood is not the kind of neighborhood that any sane person would decide to visit with ill intent. It's a big rancher neighborhood, in rural Colorado. And but I think for preppers, where they get caught up in a loop, a lot of times because of the internet, is they get beyond simplicity. And I think when you start talking about guns that you're going to use in a literally a worst case scenario, guns that you're going to need at this critical junction in the world, simplicity just jumps out. And, for example, they say, well, there's all these different kinds of handguns and different calibers. No, there's a Glock 9mm. Glock 9mm is the simplest gun in the world. Dogs can take care of it. I must have built a dozen of the things. And secondly, they generally don't break. You have to put many millions and billions of rounds through them to break them. So, yes, there's lots of other kind of guns, but to me, it's like, hey, modern polymer frame striker-fired 9mm service pistols are arguably the best guns that have ever been made on the planet. They are so irrationally good. And again, the advantage is you can get parts at your local convenience store. I have about 1 million Glock parts here, and most of them I got dirt cheap. It's like, I need to buy a spring. Why don't I buy 10? And what's the cost? It ends up costing $9.30. It's all those little small parts that may well break. Well, they're pennies or a dime or $1 each. And so you can come up with, if I have to build a Glock, if you said to me, Michael, I need you to go outside and build a Glock, right? A polymer 80 frame or 80% arms frame. Can you build a Glock this afternoon? And the answer is yes, I can. So to me, it's simplicity first, and simplicity in rifles, everybody needs an AR, but everybody isn't going to Afghanistan tomorrow afternoon. I've never, really understood the fetishism around ARs, although I'll probably have 25 of them, so I'll really probably be struck dead for saying that. But the guns that I keep around, I go to some lengths to not over-modify. They may have a trigger and they will have a light, but, I don't even have a coffee maker on any of them. But they run. I've run them. I've run them in 3-gun. I've run them in classes. The thing I know about them is they're going to run. When you start thinking in terms of that kind of simplicity, I will not argue with you if you tell me that a Benelli M4 or a Beretta 1301 is the best semi-automatic shotgun on earth. I will tell you that a Remington 870 will still be running when the asteroid hits. It's good to have, you can look at the semi-autos, and I have semi-autos, and they are very, very good. But I can't think of more than 6 months of my life where I did not have a Remington 870 12 gauge. And the one I've had now is probably 15 years old. And if I could say anything about it, it works all the time. It's been to 2 classes at Gunsight. If I had to go through and say what gun here is going to work all the time, no matter what stupid kind of ammo I dump in it, I'd say, well, that 870 has been through the mill. So always when I talk to people and they're thinking in terms of prepping and firearms, I say, yes, you can get everything in the world right now. Everything. Everything is available somewhere. But that's not what you need to think about. You need to think about what's boring. You need to think about oh man, my friends will go why didn't you get a real gun? Once you nail down what you have, and the other is 22 rifle, and a Ruger 1022 may be the greatest thing ever invented by man on earth.
Agreed.
They're amazing guns. Yeah, I mean, it's. And again, once again, if you look at a Ruger 1022, and you don't get caught up like me in competition, I'm the founder, one of the 2 founders of the Rimfire Challenge Shooting Association. I shot Rimfire Steel, blah blah. If you don't get caught up in that, and you just look at a good, not necessarily a Wally World, when Wally World sold 1022s. But if you look at a baseline, reasonably good 1022, you can buy enough parts to keep that gun running for generations. It's not complicated. And to me, that's just this huge advantage for somebody who's saying, well, right now I can go down to the hardware store, go to Ace Hardware and buy some 22s, maybe. But that might not be the case. And I think a lot of people's minds changed on this stuff when we went through the worst of the ammunition shortage. I'm sort of proud to say that on the podcast, I repeatedly said, because I heard stuff.
Yeah.
I'm in the industry, I'm an insider. And I said, people, you got to go buy ammo now. And at that point, I think Midway USA was running a loss leader on Winchester 22 long rifle, $5,000 for $225.
Holy smokes!
I said, go buy the ammo, and it's been great because I've heard from a lot of people who said, boy, we thought you were an idiot. On the other hand, we bought the ammo, and they said we're shooting.
Yeah,
a lot of our friends aren't.
What do you think caused, there are a lot of theories out there, the ammo shortage? And I guess it's still going on, so I'll refer to it in the present tense.
A perfect storm.
Yeah. Elaborate.
And I think, if you talk in terms of a prepper mentality, you always have to think in terms of perfect storms or black swans. But with the ammo shortage, the number of people coming into the culture is staggering. So staggering that the ammo in their most optimistic projections, the ammo companies never even came close to the demand that they've seen in the last few years. I mean, if they were, sitting around drinking with cigars going like, boy, oh boy, we're going to sell all this ammo. They never once thought about how much ammo we're talking about. The other thing is that a larger militarization overall in the world, where countries that might have been buying 10 million rounds of ammo all of a sudden are buying 100 rounds of ammo. So there's a stress from around the world on the common military calibers. One of the other things that people don't really see is that we, as a culture, as a gun culture, have been relatively successful in terms of convincing people to shoot a lot more. My father, who considered himself a shooter and a hunter, had one box of 30-30 ammunition for 5 years. 20 rounds of 30-30 ammunition is my idea of seeing if the gun warms up.
Right.
But all of a sudden people, and I saw this from like some NSSF stats, people started saying, we're going to go to the range, we're taking 1,000 22s, a box of 500, instead of a box of 50. And they started routinely buying that, and which is people like me encouraged. I mean, people like me and people like Bryce Townsley and Tom Gresham, we all encourage this stuff. And then we're real surprised when people went out and did it. The other thing is with Biden cracking down on Russian ammunition, which is aimed solely at us, no matter what people say, I've seen the real numbers on what the percentage of Russian ammunition being sold in the United States is. It's a big number. It's somewhere between 23 and 33%. I recently read on the internet that wasn't true, that it was only like 4%. Nonsense.
That's crazy.
I talked to the importers, and they said, here, we can show you based on our numbers how much Russian ammunition, East Bloc ammunition, is being sold in the United States. And so the loss of the Russian pipeline is critical. And what happened before the loss of the Russian pipeline, and I don't think most people really realize this, for a long time we were coasting on the post-World War II Eastern stores.
Yes.
There was a stunning amount of ammunition left over from World War II in Eastern Europe. I've seen warehouses in Eastern Europe, go back a few years, that were like, that's all the ammunition on Earth. You could build an Eiffel Tower with that ammunition. Well, we shot it all up.
I would add to that the end of the Cold War, when the Bulgarians, for example, didn't need all that 7.62 by 39, and they just had gobs of it after the Cold War.
And they dumped it for kibbles and bits.
Mm-hmm. And we got addicted to the kibbles and bits price.
Yeah, I mean, I saw million lot prices that was putting like 7.62 by 39 down around 3 cents a round.
Oh my goodness!
Jeez.
And you're thinking like, it gets marked up when it gets here, but that's your baseline. The big importers are paying like 3 cents a round for it because it was just there. Eastern Europe has so many ammunition factories, and they're like, well, they weren't willing to shut down.
Yeah.
They were like, we got to sell stuff. We got to make stuff. We got to sell stuff. It's that whole series of things all happening at once. Components, especially on a commercial level. Martin Tuason, who owns Arms Corps in Rock Island, is a really good friend of mine. At one point, he and I were talking, and when he buys primers in like 10 million lot, right? Mm-hmm. Because he's got an ammo factory, a big ammo factory.
Here in Montana, I might add. We're in Montana.
Yeah, he does there, but they do the assembly there.
Mm-hmm.
The Philippine plant is huge. And what they do is they take it to a certain level and send it to Montana, and they're going to expand Montana, by the way. But he said, I got primer issues. And I'm like, how bad? And he goes, this bad. I got to go to Russia next week. And he goes, I got to go negotiate with the Russians for primers. I said, ouch, that bad. And he goes, what can you do? He goes, the only people in the world who are holding large lots of primers right now are the Russians or the Eastern Europeans. And he goes, I got no choice. I need 100 million primers for the next, 10 months. Who's got them? He says, so I got to go to Russia.
Hey, Michael, could we pause you there? And Shelby's going to mention
absolutely.
Some of our sponsors. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to Katie Armor. Come and take it. That's what Katie stands for. They specialize in steel body plates for everybody, not just the military, not just law enforcement, but for everybody. And when we watch what's happening in our news cycle these days, that's important. So check them out at our website, prepping2-0.com.
I'd like to talk about BattleBox. This is a monthly subscription service where every month you get a surprise box of goodies. They have boxes that start at $29.99 a month and go all the way up to $159.99 a month. And I did an unboxing video of one of the premium boxes that they sent us. And that's a video bonus show that's up for Patreons at the $5 level and above. It's kind of cool. It's Christmas every month. You get stuff that you didn't know about.
So for Katie Armor, the coupon code is GRANT at checkout. For BattleBox, to get 20% off your first order, use the code prepping20 at checkout. And of course, you can find both of those sponsors at our website, prepping2-0.com.
I'd like to add another one, Backwoods Home Magazine, a magazine that I'm sure Michael Bane is familiar with. It's a great magazine. It's got all kinds of plans and recipes, and it gets you thinking about skill building, yeah. And that is 6 off the coupon code, and you'll get $6 off that.
Yep. So where were we at with Michael? I'm just sitting here listening
talking about 100 million primers from
Russia.
The Russians.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in a perfect storm. I think it's so true. I'm not an industry insider by any means. I'm just a consumer. But it makes sense to me that a perfect storm is what it would take to create such a shortage of something that is in such high demand. And candidly, the high demand means profits. Huge profits could be made. And for there still to be a shortage when you've got a market aching for your product, there's got to be several problems to simultaneously solve.
And the companies are in a position where they can't expand.
Yep.
There's no easy short path for an expansion of an ammunition country in the United States, a company in the United States, or for that matter, Australia, and some areas like some of the Spanish firms. And they're in the same situation of if they say we're going to build a larger ammo plant, it's going to take years and it's going to cost millions. And by the time it gets online, a lot of the industry got caught out in the first AR bubble, where friends of mine, they said, hey, you just can't get AR lowers. You can't get AR lowers and uppers. And wowie zowie, if we can make AR lowers and uppers, And one of my friends, I sat down with him and said, you know what? It's a bubble.
Yep.
And I said, brother, it's a bubble. And he goes, well, what do you think that means? I said, I think that means that every bubble pops. I said, I think I slept through Economics 101, but I do recall that bubbles pop. And I said, the problem that you have as a startup guy is by the time you buy the CNCs, get them in place, get them programmed, and actually turn out your first product, the bubble is likely to have popped, and you're going to eat that. You're going to eat that CNC machine. You'll use it, but, you know, when I sit here and look at your amortization schedule on the purchase, I'm telling you, I don't think this will hold.
And we saw that.
They're like,
go ahead.
It did.
When
it
the
did.
bubble,
No, exactly what you said.
When the bubble burst and ARs were everywhere because everybody and their dog was making them, and the same with ammunition, back when ammunition was plentiful. My theory is, and I'm curious what your thoughts on this are, that was the golden age of guns. And I say guns, I mean ammo and magazines too. All the fixins and the guns were widely available. Prices were really cheap. And we would go on the air and talk about this is the golden age. You guys, you've got to get guns and ammo and magazines now because this isn't going to last. There's going to be another shortage. What's your view of the golden age of guns? And we have 2 minutes before the segment break. Kind of mean to ask you a big question like that and then say there's 2 minutes.
Well, I think briefly, I think you're correct. I mean, those days of inexpensive are gone, and they're not coming back.
No.
You know, we're still in a situation where there are better and more guns in better and more niches that have ever been made before. You just have to pay a lot for them. I would like to point out that I'm one of those people that bought magazines when I was paying kibbles and bits for them. And, you know, my sweetie would say, do you really need 100 AR magazines? I don't know, but it didn't cost me crap, you know, so I basically, you know, I never took them out of the wrapper. And so when Colorado said, by the way, you know, you can only have 15-round magazine unless you owned them previously to July 2013, I'm like, you have no idea.
So, Michael, I'm going to stop you. Michael, I'm going to stop you right there because, you're fine. We're up against the break.
Yep.
Oh, no, we're not. We have 1 more minute. Keep going. What'd you do with all those AR magazines?
After Colorado
I store them.
And I wrote about that too. Exactly. You stored them where no one can find them. But sorry, keep going. You have about another 30 seconds. My bad.
Well, you do that. I made a list of guns that I have and guns that I consider important, that it's important for me to keep running. And my intent in purchasing those magazines was to buy enough magazines and parts that I could keep those guns running forever.
Nice.
And that doesn't seem like an irrational thing. It didn't cost me a lot of money. It would now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it would.
Boy, and isn't that the prepping? That's
the prepping mindset. Get stuff, number one, while it's available, and number two, while it's inexpensive, and number three, these are things you really need. And obviously, you really need guns for what's coming. I hate to sound dark, but there it is.
Yeah. So, folks, don't go.
I want to just throw this out just as quickly before you go to the break. When the pandemic started, when the COVID pandemic started, I said, you know, you really, if you're going to wear a mask, you need to wear an N95.
There you go.
And somebody said, so no doubt you have them? So of course I do. I'm surprised you don't.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's
so
right.
hang on to that thought. We are going to continue this fascinating conversation on the other side of the break.
More of Prepping 2.0 with authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher is coming right up. Hear all our previous shows free online at prepping2-0.com.
Abe Lincoln here. In 1773, patriots broke the chains of British tyranny by throwing tea into Boston Harbor. On that day, Americans began drinking coffee. We celebrate that event daily here at Minutemen Coffee. All men are created equal. Coffee is not. Minutemen Coffee is roasted to perfection in small batches. Bold, smooth, and never bitter. Shipped to you fresh daily. Whole bean, ground, or our patented pods. www.minutemencoffee.com.
Shelby Gallagher here. We found that you need to layer your food preps.
Yeah, this is Glenn Tate here. A lot of times the hardest part of layering is the long-term foods. We love Numana foods, which have a 25-year shelf life and are non-GMO. Also, organic meals are available.
Numana comes in family-style portions and in bulk. This is not backpacking food. It's family meals that last for at least 25 years. The perfect freeze-dried part of your food layering.
You can get a sample of Numana meals for $19.95 and see for yourself. You will be amazed.
Prepping 2.0 listeners get a 10% discount by entering the code PREP.
Go to newmana.com or click the link on the Prepping 2.0 website.
Give it a try. Newmana.com. That is NUMANNA.com.
When the grid goes down, darkness will descend fast. Used to be there was nothing you could do about an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, or CME, coronal mass ejection. Now you can protect your electronics, protect your family, thanks to EMP Shield. EMP Shield invented a simple-to-install device that prevents whatever's connected to it from frying in an EMP or CME, and it costs just a few $100s. EMP Shield has been tested by independent laboratories and passed muster with the government, which has ordered lots of them. Google EMP Shield and see for yourself. And save some money. Get a $50 discount per device. Go to prepping2-0.com. Click on the Friends and Affiliates page, then click on the EMP Shield logo. At checkout, use coupon code PREPPING2.0. It's all one word.
PrepperNet, where preppers unite. Looking to meet other like-minded people in your area? Looking to start your own prepper group? Already have a group? Join PrepperNet.com. PrepperNet has gathered the biggest names in the industry to help unite preppers everywhere. Join John Jacob Schmidt, Scott Hunt, Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy, Glenn Tate, Shelby Gallagher, Charlie Hogwood, Samuel Culper, Survivor Jane, Rick Austin, Franklin Horton, Ryan Mitchell, and Brian Duff. Our team is united. Check us out at PrepperNet.com. PrepperNet, where preppers unite. PrepperNet.com.
Prepping 2.0 is about that next level of prepping. One of the key 2.0 items to have is bulletproof body armor plates. I used to think body armor was too tactical for a regular guy like me, but it isn't. Give yourself, your family, and your team an unfair advantage when bullets are flying. Body armor used to be expensive and hard to get. Not anymore. KD Armor, and that stands for Come and Take It, makes solid and affordable body armor for normal people. Get body armor while you can. The clowns in Congress are trying to prohibit future sales. KD Armor is the place to get it. CATI armor.com. Prepping 2.0 listeners get a 10% discount when you use the coupon code GRANT.
Now, more of Prepping 2.0 with authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher.
Welcome back, everyone. Shelby Gallagher over here at Prepping 2.0. This is a fascinating conversation. I'm just sitting here soaking it up and taking notes. But before we get some more insights from our guest, Michael Bane, I want to say a quick shout out to a couple more of our awesome sponsors. Newmana Foods, great folks over there. They specialize in
bulk freeze-dried food.
Bulk freeze-dried food. And this is the time.
Yeah. We were talking about the golden age of guns.
This is the golden age of bulk freeze-dried foods.
Yeah, exactly.
So check them out at our website, prepping2-0.com. Use the coupon code lowercase prep at checkout, and you can get an extra 10% off your order. The other one we want to talk about is Lizzie McDaniel.
Yeah.
She is a rock star realtor over in Tennessee. She knows the Tennessee real estate market really well.
She's one of us.
She's a prepper. She's one of us. She knows what, just by that alone, she knows what preppers and homesteaders are looking for. And she'll help you out. We've had great reviews from folks who have utilized her services, and you can find her at redstate-realtors.com. Love Lizzie. Go Glenn.
There we go. And then EMP Shield, we wanted to talk about them. They make a product that shields whatever it's wired into from the after effects of an EMP or a coronal mass ejection. And this isn't hocus pocus. This is tested, and they have military contracts and Homeland Security contracts. So for the military and Homeland Security and other related agencies to put their faith in this means that they have to have some assurance that this stuff actually works, or they would be embarrassed. I was going to say get fired, but none of them will ever get fired.
Well, and they've got all the science to back it up on their website.
They've got the studies.
Really cool to see.
It's actually kind of fascinating. Mm-hmm. It's basically a surge protector that kicks in 3 trillionths of a second. Wow. That's about my attention span.
So check them out at our website. And again, you can use the coupon code PREPPING2.0 and you get $50 off each device.
Yeah, and they're about $300. Yep. So it's a nice little savings. Well, back to Michael Bane, the fascinating Michael Bane. He can talk about Hank Jr. or the intricacies of the ammo shortage. Very interesting guy. That's why I've been listening to his podcast for a very long time, and you should too. And so a question for you, Michael, how important is training?
was it Jeff Cooper that said, just because you bought a piano doesn't mean you're a pianist?
Yeah, exactly.
It's, for a long time, and I'm the guy that coined the phrase gun culture version 2.0, and I'm sorry, I'm probably going to go to hell, but gun culture version 1.0, where essentially guns, the culture was passed through families. My father taught me to shoot just like his grandfather taught me how to shoot, and they did everything wrong. I came out of growing up thinking I could shoot. And, if it's like a 50-yard deer, sure, I can shoot. But, I realized at some point very early on that I didn't really understand how everything worked. And especially when I was lucky enough to fall in with bad companions, like Colonel Cooper, like Ken Hackathorn. Mm-hmm. I fell in with those guys very early on in competition, and I discovered in competition that I could not do those things which I thought I knew how to do, and that meant that something had to give, and I became obsessive about training, and I think most people should. I do believe unconditionally that the Gunsight 250 pistol class, their basic pistol class, it is the earthworks on which most other training is founded. And I've taken the Gunsight 250, 350 pistol class maybe 12 times. I forget, a lot. I go there to lose bad habits that I pick up on the road. But we used to if I go back to another life when I was doing a lot of very high risk sports and wrote the book Over the Edge, I was out in Columbia River in Oregon with these guys who were windsurfing in effectively hurricanes. Mm-hmm. And they were teaching me big wind. And one of them said, you should never buy anything so tricky you can't sail it. And I thought, wow, that applies to gun owners, And so with the podcast, and I know you've heard me say this a million times, it all comes down to what you can do on demand. If I say to you, I need you to make a 25-yard shot on that 10-inch plate, can you do it? And if you can't do it, you need to step back and say, what kind of training do I need to get to be able to do that? It's so important that it overrides buying more guns. And I sort of live in a world of guns because of all the stuff I do, but the training is the best trainers I know, and you can, regardless of who they are, Masad Ayub or Tom Givens, Greg Elliford, these guys are the best in the world, constantly take courses with other trainers.
Yep.
Because, there's always something. Some of the legendary law enforcement people that were my mentors and taught me so much. Walt Roush, the late Walt Roush was U.S. Army Intelligence, Secret Service Presidential Detail, Philadelphia High-Risk Felony Squad, and then a private dick on the mean docks of Philadelphia. But and then Jim Cirillo from the New York Police Department's Takeout Squad. Legends. They took classes. and between them, they'd kill more men than smallpox. But
great friends.
Constantly were, every so often I would call them up and they would be obsessed on something they were researching and looking for somebody to, explain to them, do you know anybody who can get deeply into Jelly Bryce's basic style of point shooting, that kind of thing. There's always more to learn. A quick story, because I'm nothing but quick stories, right? The first time I went to Africa, I didn't really know what I was doing. I could shoot by then. I thought I was a competent rifle shot, but I passed up a 300-yard shot on a gim spot, and I passed it up because I wasn't 100% sure I could make the shot, and that weighed on me. So when I came back to the United States over a period of years, I decided that I would understand that. I would understand what it took to shoot longer distances, and I did. And it took a lot of training, a lot of classes, and it took a willingness to, and this is going to sound odd to people, but it's really important. I mean, people who have never trained, you can go train. But if you've done a lot of training or you think you know a lot of stuff, you have a certain ego investment in it. If you ever read George Leonard's book, Mastery, George Leonard was the great American Aikido master. He'd been a bombardier in World War II. And a brilliant man. I was lucky enough to spend a little time with him, talking to him. But, in his book, Mastery, one of the key points he makes about learning is that ultimately when the head of judo died, and they asked, he was on his deathbed and said, "How do you want to be buried?" And he says, "In my white belt." And for what George Leonard took from that was to say, you're always going to start at the low end in your white belt. And you have to be willing to do that. And that means that you have to be able to deal with your ego, where your ego says, "Man, I can shoot like great." And I say, "Shoot the 10-inch plate," and you can't hit it. Mm-hmm. That means you can't shoot great. I'm sorry. I mean, I have a range in my yard. So sometimes when people tell me what they can do, I'll say, "Let's step outside. Show me. You don't have to tell me. There's steel there. Shoot it."
Yeah.
And it's, you don't like to do that. It doesn't feel good. But I mean, when I did Over the Edge, George Leonard was a huge influence on me when I was doing really high risk sports. Because you had to go into them and say, "I'm an idiot. Let's work from there."
Or you'll die.
And
yeah. If you think you know it, you're going to die. Unless you have that.
And that was the clear point. And I love that, which I learned a lot about shooting doing high risk sports. I was a cave diver. I went on big mountains. I've done lots. But what I found fascinating is the way the mind works, and you see some of this in Trail Safe, the way the mind works under potentially lethal stress. Because it has to work a certain way, or you die. It's really simple, but it's hard to actually make yourself do that. I mean, we say those words. We say "Well, I'm going to train until I can't do it wrong." That's really actually hard to do. But when I was mountain climbing, there's lots of knots, right? There's whole books with different kind of knots in them. And what I did is I taught myself to tie a figure 8 knot. And I tied figure 8 knots in my sleep. I carried pieces of rope on airplanes, and I sat there and tied figure 8 knots over and over and over again. I never stopped tying figure 8 knots. And a figure 8 knot is the knot that attaches you to the main line on a big mountain. If you need to be on that line or die, you need to be able to really do a perfect figure 8 knot.
And
the point came on a mountain in the blizzard at 42 degrees below zero on Denali. I had to tie a figure 8 knot. And I don't even remember it. I just tied it, and the next thing I knew, I was on the line. I wasn't going to fall. I wasn't going to take the long ride. I can still tie a figure 8 knot, and it's been years.
One of the things about training that, and somebody else said this, so I'm not going to take credit for it, and I don't remember who said it. One of the things people forget is that one of the benefits of training is learning how to practice. And you take the things you learn in training, and then when you practice on your own, you are carrying out those good habits. What do you think about that theory?
It's important because people generally practice wrong.
Yeah.
And they practice wrong, and which you already know this. I mean, there's that old saying, and I forget where it maybe came out of auto racing. I don't know. Maybe came out of triathlon. Is you train your weakness and race your strength. So if you say triathlon and you're a great bicyclist, what you need to practice is running. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing you least like to practice. And it's no different than training with guns. Is if you love being fast, man, if you love cutting your split time down, blippity blip blip blip, and you go out every day and you practice, can I just get one more hundredth of a second off my split time? But you can't hit a 50-yard human silhouette. Mm-hmm. Well, you've now practiced your strength, and the day may come when you have to race your weakness, and you're not going to be happy. I
call those guys that do the split, the shaving a 100th second off, the Instagram guys, because they go and they post on Instagram what it is, and it's all pistol. It's no rifle. It's no transitions. It's no long-range shooting. They're a one-trick pony, and I admit that mag changes and all of that are important in a fight. I get that. Of course, most fights, I'm told, are only 3 rounds or so. It's either 3 or 30, right? I mean, mag changes are less important than people think. Yeah. Well, here's another question for you. And this is the classic debate, AR versus AK. What are your thoughts? And we had Jim Fuller on from, formerly Rifle Dynamics, currently Fuller Phoenix. I'm sure you know Jim Fuller.
Very well.
And
yes.
And he gave a tutorial on the AK and myths and all of that. It's a great episode to go listen to. Jim Fuller is the king of AKs, I think, in the United States. And what are your thoughts on AR versus AK, especially with a focus on what preppers should know? Maybe there are some folks that don't have a modern combat rifle, formerly known as an assault rifle. That's a term we don't use here. And what do you think about ARs versus AKs?
Yeah. There was a point in my life where I would have told you that I'm unconditionally an AR guy. And I shot him in competition, shot him in 3-gun, shot him in various AR shooting competitions. But as it happens, I met Jim Fuller. And and through meeting Jim and I for I guess on season 20 or 21 of Shooting Gallery, Jim and I built an AK. And I will say that AK, it's got no frills. It's got a red dot sight on it. It has no frills. It was the most amazing gun that I'd ever seen. And I shot a lot of AKs, I shot a lot of AKs that were like living. I have other strange stories about shooting AKs in foreign countries at the edge of war, but the one that Jim built, and what Jim said, this is basic gun A. And he's right. It's the AK stripped away without all the accoutrements, without the mag pull furniture, without the bells and whistles. The thing can be run like a handgun.
Mm-hmm.
It's quick, it's efficient, it's accurate. It handles amazingly well. If I said I was going to run out of the house and there are people running up my road and I might need to speak to them sternly, I think I might need to speak to them sternly with an AK. The house gun, the gun that stays loaded all the time because I live in nowhere, and it's in a locked cabinet, but it's loaded all the time and it's sighted in, is a Galil in 308.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it's a Galil in 308 is you can use it to drive tent pegs. You can use it to split wood. It has no finesse, none.
Mm-hmm.
It is a shooting machine. I have never seen it malfunction, and I have treated it like crap for a decade. I shot 3-gun with it, heavy metal with it. Am I going to be able to shoot 1,000 yards with it? No, it won't do that. That's not what it's for. But on the other hand, it won't fail. I have absolute faith in it, and it's a pure AK operating system. And I never mess with it. It is as it came from the factory, and it has like tens of thousands of rounds through it now. But if I say, it's a grab and gun run, grab and run gun that you gotta. But AKs and ARs are pretty much on even footing if you don't mess with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's messing with them that catches you out. Just because you can, just because an AR is a Barbie, for men, it doesn't mean that Barbie has to get all the clothes and the shoes and everything. My everyday carry gun, by the way, is a SIG 365.
Good choice.
I'm on the 365 forums and stuff, and literally people buy a 365, and the first words out of their mouth is, "What should I change?" And my response is, "Don't change anything. Shoot the gun, you idiot." If something needs changes, it will make itself evident in your shooting the gun. Me telling you what you need to change is just simply, it's not good. Because every time you change, I was at Glock like a month and a half ago at Glock Professionals, their training arm, and we were all laughing. There's a standard thing you do when somebody says, "My Glock doesn't work." First words out of your mouth are, "What replacement parts do you have in it?" And they go, well, I got a trigger from Lone Wolf, and, I got a barrel from Glock Works. And the next thing is take all that stuff out, put the original parts in it, shoot the gun. Does it work now? Now change it out one part at a time, and you'll find out what's failed, or what's not to spec, or what's not working because you've essentially got a stack tolerance set up.
Yep.
But it's always go back to basics. So when if you buy a gun and the first words out of your mouth are, give me a list of the 5 things I need to change, you should have bought a different gun.
Yep. Yeah, and go ahead.
I love Jim Fuller. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Oh, absolutely great guy. He's another guy who was a fan of the books, and miraculously I got his email address. I can't even remember how I did it. And he came on the show, and I was mesmerized. I'm a fanboy of his too. I'm a fanboy of a lot of people. And the argument for ARs, and keep it simple, is going to apply to ARs and AKs. The argument for ARs is the availability of ammunition and parts, slightly more available, especially maybe some of the ammunition with the Russian import embargo. What do you think about that topic of commonality of ammunition, availability of ammunition for ARs, giving it, I think, a slight edge? I agree with you. I love AKs. I'm a huge fan of AK-74s. And AK-74s, because I know you've read the books, are very prominent. A friend of mine, and I've never been in the military, so when I say a Green Beret friend of mine, I don't want to imply that I'm a Green Beret. But a Green Beret friend of mine, Special Forces Ted in the book, he's the character. He's a real guy. He said, we were having breakfast one time, and he said, I see that you love AK-74s and the 5.45 by 39 cartridge. What is ballistically so great about the 5.45 cartridge? And I said 11. And he said, what? And I said 11 cents a round. That's back when it was cheap. That was my criterion, was 11 cents a round, because I knew I would practice with it. But this isn't the AK-74 show. But what do you think about that theory about if a prepper needs one modern combat rifle, advantage goes to the AR because of availability of ammo and parts?
It does. I mean, there's no way around it. And the other thing is if you're Jim Fuller, it's easy to tinker with an AK. If you're me, I mean, apparently I failed riveting. Jim Fuller didn't have a heart to say that to me, but he goes, I'm going to re-rivet a couple of your rivets, Michael, if you don't mind.
And that takes machinery to do riveting, and there's no riveting in an AR.
Yeah, ARs is, once again, is, just dog simple. And that's, I mean, I like simplicity. I mean, it works for me. That's why I have 3 ARs that are very good. They're one Wilson Combat, a couple of Daniel Defense. They're very good guns. I don't mess with them because they're very good guns. They shoot well. It's hard to, if you're willing to go to any name manufacturer, it's hard to get a bad AR. If you work on it, you can find one. Or if you build it yourself with those parts you got cheap, surprise.
Exactly.
But I just, from a prepping standpoint, that, and the other thing, I mean, I guess it goes back to like mel tap, and it's not so much that you think, oh my God, I'm going to need a hunting rifle, but I actually, a 308 is my safe space. I feel happy and calm around 308. I've shot it a lot in a lot of different guns and a lot of different platforms. I know what it does. I have a pretty good idea what this round or that round is going to do. I've hunted with it around the world in places where people said, "Why didn't you bring a real gun? Why did you just bring a stupid 38 Scout or 308 Scout rifle?" And at the end of the thing, they go like, "Oh, yeah, because you didn't need anything else."
So real quick, I'm going to stop you right there.
Yeah, we need to cut in and mention some sponsors.
Yeah, some awesome sponsors. A new sponsor to us, My Kind CBD. Great folks over there. They have fine-tuned the world of CBD oil and its benefits. Glenn recently did a VBS with them, and we got to hear the really good news. The science, and why especially My Kind CBD is good, high quality, pure, highly effective. And you can find them at our website, again at prepping2-0.com, at Friends and Affiliates. Another great sponsor of ours, we did a recent show with the CEO, is Minutemen Coffee. Unabashedly pro Second Amendment, more importantly, unabashedly pro Constitution and pro the founding fathers of our country. Will never apologize for that. They are the exclusive roasters of I Miss America roast, and I gotta say, I drink it every darn day. And if you
sometimes to excess,
sometimes I don't drink just a cup at a time.
Yeah,
I measure my coffee consumption by a pot at a time. Anyway, you can, again, check them out through our website. Use the prepping code I Miss America at checkout and get 15% off your order. Check out some of the other things that they have. They have really grown exponentially as a business because
they do it right.
They do it right. So, yeah. Anyway,
if you're
go
a conservative, you should be drinking Minuteman coffee.
Absolutely. So we have just a couple more minutes. Glenn,
a couple more minutes. I wanted to touch on a hopefully quick topic, and then we'll go into the after show, and I'm going to let you tell the story about the influence you had on Hank Jr. for coming up with the concept of Country Boy Can't Survive. Because if there is a song that captures what we're all about, it is that song. So the question is there any debate anymore that 9mm is the pistol cartridge?
And you have 40 seconds.
40 seconds.
No.
There's no debate. It is established.
9mm is the only pistol cartridge in the world.
Yeah. Oh, I know you don't. There are all kinds of specialty cartridges, and you've talked about it. You've talked about, all the different ones, and they all have pluses and minuses. But as far as prepping and having, especially if you only have one handgun, it seems that 9mm is the way to go. It works, and it is very, very prevalent. Is that fair to say?
It's absolute truth. The ammunition is widely, readily available. And that's more than anything else. I mean, I can tell you, I actually love .44 Russian, but I would be terrified if I was left with nothing but a .44 Russian handgun.
And we're going to have to leave it. We're going to have to leave on that.
We're going to hold on that note. Yeah, we're going to take it into the after show, folks. Don't forget, these are words we live by every week from Benjamin Franklin. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Have a great week, everyone.
You've been listening to Prepping 2.0 with authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher. All the information you've heard today, including all our previous shows, is online at prepping2-0.com. Find out more about Glenn's books at 299days.com and Shelby's books at agreatstate.com. Until next time, be smart, be safe, and be prepared.